Had an amazing conversation with the Chief Business Officer of Flux, Davy Wittock. We covered artificial intelligence, their compute power, decentralization, their growth, some amazing partnerships, and really why I think Flux could be a sleeping giant. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoy.
I'm the Chief Business Officer for Flux or for Influx. It's my job to reach out to folks in the space, in the Web3 space, but also in other regular IT type of companies that I reach out to see where we can work together, collaborate.
Could you explain for if anyone's new to Flux and they're interested in what the Flux ecosystem is, how what the Flux Cloud, Flux Node,
Mhm.
Flux Proof of Useful Work?
There's a lot to digest, isn't it? So in a nutshell, Flux, the basic intent of Flux is to have a cloud solution that is built by people for the people. I know that sounds a little political almost, but that's literally what we're trying to build here. So if you have an older computer, you have a Raspberry Pi, you have a small data center, or you actually have a data center, all of these folks, they're able to participate with Flux. And how it works is quite simple. Our cloud solution, it's a sort of a staking mechanism. It's a masternode type of system, but we actually use the masternodes more than just for validation. And to go back one step, it is a proof of work chain. So we are layer one, and our proof of work is run by folks, miners with GPUs. So we have no ASICs on the network or anything like that. It is with the intent that anybody can join. If you have an older graphics cards, you can still mine Flux and participate. And then part of the block reward goes to the miners, and the other half goes to the masternode operators. And it's those masternodes that actually are the backbone of our cloud solution. So we have about 13,000 of these at this point. And yeah, it's used for game servers, APIs, web services, WordPress, just regular websites, you name it, you can Dockerize it, you can run it on Flux. That's true Depin. And we've started this before Depin was a tag on CoinMarketCap and other websites where you can go. But the intent was to build this out from the start. We saw a need for cloud solutions to be a little different than what they are today. We saw a need to have more than the three big ones out there that basically monopolize almost the cloud solution out there. Talking with a new partner of ours yesterday who has been in the Linux space for 3 decades. They're the original folks that created the first Linux for enterprises. And the best compliment that I've ever gotten from anybody was literally saying, you guys actually build a cloud solution and not just an oversized data center network, which was quite a nice compliment.
So when I first found Flux, I saw it as the decentralized like data storage service type of system. And so would you say that like Amazon Web Services would be like the decentralized goal of like if that's like a major competitor? Is that kind of the system or the kind of scale you're looking at?
Yeah, so that's the long-term vision. Definitely become a competitor to the big boys, even to an Amazon. And if you heard about Flux as a storage provider, there's actually more that we do, right? So storage is just a factor, is just a piece of the suite. And we provide basically everything you need to run your web services on. And that goes from CPU compute to the disks, to the memory, and all for pennies on the dollar. That's the biggest difference already with the Amazon folks out there. A simple 2 CPU type of thing. Basically, we charge about $8, $9, and that costs 150 on the big boys at a minimum. So that's right there is already a big cost saving. Plus, it's actually decentralized, so it's way more secure in that regard. That if one of those data centers goes down, you're not down. You just move around. That's literally what we're building out, and our next iteration. So basically almost Cloud 2.0 that we're building out, our edge solution will basically offer you an option to include GPUs so that you can do AI rendering and all that fun stuff, or remote gaming, or have a remote desktop somewhere. You'll have that opportunity as well. And that all comes out at the end of the month, is what the forecast says at the moment. We'll be releasing it at the end of this month, end of March.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about AI because I feel like it's very big. It's very changing the world right now, and NVIDIA has exploded. And I think the compute business is just massive. It's going to continue to grow. It's like I think everyone's trying to get their piece of artificial intelligence. And I saw Flux has, I don't know if it's an addition or if it's something you guys were already doing to do compute, decentralized compute.
It's funny, right? It almost sounds like we're like chasing things. If we would be chasing, we would be a year or two out to even be able to provide this. So it's not like we had an epiphany a couple months ago. Hey, we should also jump in on the AI. I'm from I have a medical IT background, so it's always been my goal to see how I can decentralize some of the medical pieces. And a big piece of medical healthcare is radiology. And in radiology, the biggest help at this point is actually AI. So AI is literally speeding things up, helping doctors to make it more efficient for them to read their studies. So what did Flux do? Well, 2 years ago, I onboarded a young kid called Alex. And Alex came to me with an idea that he was part of the University of Geneva at that point. And he's like, Davy, we have all of this compute power at the university. And basically, at this point, we have all this compute power and we don't even have enough. Like if everybody here wants to utilize it, we can't even get it to the point that everybody can use it. And now we have to go rent on Amazon and Azure, and then we're paying millions of dollars to be able to do our thing. So that's not been ideal. So can we do something about it? Can Flux help with us? Yeah, so you guys have a big network. Is there an opportunity to do something with GPUs with those miners? So we started talking, and that was 2 years ago. And now we're releasing it. So one of the criticisms that I get sometimes is, oh, why did you not do this sooner? Why did it take so long? And that's a good question that we often get. But the biggest risk that we didn't want to take shortcuts. The biggest problem that I see with some of the competitors and some of the providers out there already is that they went the shortcut route. We want to be first. We want to be first. And I don't mind being first on something, but I want to be the first who has quality when they bring something out. That was my biggest drive. So we're partnered with a couple of big companies, and we'll be releasing those in the next few weeks. They basically helped us with the software, some of the back-end software that we need. We put our own flavor to it. They helped us with that as well. But basically what we have built out is a complete Kubernetes type of cluster, a Kubernetes version that is used by governments, by institutions, by hospitals, by banks. So hardened type of Kubernetes with the intent that we can deploy this anywhere. So we'll be the first decentralized solution that will be HIPAA compliant, that will be GDPR compliant. We can run anything and yet be secure, be decentralized, and still have people like you and me participate and provide this type of compute power. That's going to be the strength.
That seems awesome. That seems really exciting. I saw that Flux did a type of partnership with NVIDIA. What does that partnership look like?
So we were part of the Inception program. But we were actually a partner. So we were an Inception partner from the 2 years now, I think. And that basically helped us with leveraging some knowledge from them, access to APIs that we probably otherwise wouldn't get access to devices easier. But we actually just graduated. So yay us. So we basically moved out of the Inception program and will become a cloud provider, as a cloud program provider. So what that means is that we'll be a full-blown partner of NVIDIA, and we'll basically be tagged as a cloud provider. So yeah, we're pretty grateful of the folks from NVIDIA for some of the guidance and tips and tricks that we were given, access to some of the documentation, access to the devices. It's helped us a lot. And then I'll be going to, so I'm invited by NVIDIA to go to GTC, I believe, in San Jose, I think, in a few weeks. So yeah, pretty excited. So yeah, a full-blown partner. So you'll probably see some announcements around that as well in the next few weeks.
Wow. That sounds huge. So would Flux be then kind of part of their pipeline, or are you part of their compute power?
So what that means, so this is literally fresh. Like I'm talking yesterday's news almost. We have to set out the lines what this will mean for Flux.
Okay.
I'm sure will be suggested as a partner, as a potential solution to customers of NVIDIA. We'll have access again to some of the more advanced cards that are used for AI, which we can then also potentially give you guidance on how to get those via NVIDIA. So if we have large data center partners, they'll be able to utilize us to get and procure those type of cards. We have no intention of getting these cards ourselves and going to a competition with our own user base. We don't have that intention at all. I know there's other projects who do that, where they procure their own hardware and then put it on their own network. No intention on that. I'm not saying that none of us are going to be mining, because I am mining myself, but we don't want to outcompete with everybody out there. But the biggest thing is now you'll see Flux as a cloud partner. We'll be at events, we'll be at conferences. You'll see us have the NVIDIA logo on the website, as not as an inception program now, but as actual partner. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits that come with this. What it will entail exactly, well, that's up for discussion next week, because I have a meeting with the guys.
Wow, that's cool. Well, I'm really excited to see how that turns out, what that develops into.
Yep.
I feel like for a lot of crypto investors and buyers of coins, they're kind of comparing different projects and such. And if Flux is kind of branded as this decentralized data storage, decentralized compute, what would you say is your major Web3 competitors? Is it like Filecoin, Store, Arweave? Are you?
Oh, that's a good question. I see what you're doing there. That's a really good question. You got the wrong person from Flux on your recording here. I'm the guy who builds bridges. I'm not Dan, and Dan will straight up say, "Oh, we don't have competition." We do have competition, but I am not in that type of mindset. You might actually be surprised. I can't disclose, but there's one of the guys you named that we'll be actually working together with. So I'm here to build bridges. If you're a project that is very focused on storage, because those are the ones that you just mentioned, if that's your main focus, that also means you put a lot of effort in it, and you go a lot more deeper than, like, since our storage offering. We have storage offerings. We utilize IPFS and all that fun stuff. We try to make it all decentralized as well, and I think we did a good job there as well. But we don't have like an S3 type of storage offering, which the folks from Storj have and Filecoin have. I think even Coin has it as well. So that's where I kind of draw the line, is that yes, we have storage, but it's not our main goal. Like for us, the main goal is compute power, being able to have a platform where you can host, and sometimes that requires some extra storage. And so we wanted to make it easy for folks to have it in one big suite, so that they have that option to utilize it. And if not, they can always go to the other coins out there.
Great. So it seems like you have a retail aspect, but is the primary business model for Flux to be like B2B, that you're primarily working with enterprise and industry?
The answer is yes to all. So we have. So I'm expanding my team actually as we go, with the intent of doing actually both. So we have the retail business and gaming. We got WordPress now fully released on Flux, so it's 20-year-old technology running in Web3, fully decentralized. I don't think anybody else has that at this point. And so that can be utilized by anybody. And that goes from your bloggers, influencers, anybody wants to participate with that. You can do Owncast on Flux if you want to do something streaming. So you want to not use YouTube, but for once you want to use something yourself, and just give an option to folks to do something else, or have some free speech and do your thing. then you can do that. So yeah, there's options there. And then when it comes to business, which is a big piece of our offering as well, with the Flux Edge solution that's coming out, that is actually really focused on businesses and researchers and institution type of customers, with the intent to provide a solution or an alternative solution to the big boys out there that is a lot less expensive, easier to use. Oh boy, is it a lot easier to use. I don't know if you've ever been on an Amazon procurement route, but that is complicated. There's a lot of options to choose from and misclick from, and at the end of the month be surprised with the cost. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for anybody out there, predictable on costing, because that's a big one. This with the big boys is it's not always predictable what your cost is going to be with the egress of data. Yeah, we're trying to be predictable, competitive in that pricing, and at the same time very, very useful and easy to use. That's been my motto now for the last few months, ease of use, and that's what the entire Flux suite is being built to now, is to make it a lot easier to utilize. I know it's blockchain, but it has to be easy to get into and utilize it as if it's any other type of service out there, and that's coming now.
Yeah, absolutely. For the customer, you don't want to see the blockchain or see
No,
anything different than Web 2 and what they're used to. It's just a different.
it's been the biggest challenge is explaining to folks how to get into it. You have to go to an exchange. What is an exchange? Well, that's where you buy your blockchain type of money. Having to explain all that, setting up a wallet, signing things to make it appealing on the blockchain, appear on the blockchain. All of that is it's easy for folks who are in the space, but it is a daunting task if you're not. And that's been our biggest hurdle and for adoption side of things, and we're fixing that completely. So, and this might might be a little bit of a leak, but basically within the next few weeks, and I mentioned it earlier, ease of use is important. In the next few weeks, you'll be able to use PayPal, Stripe, Google Pay, Apple Pay, basically pay for your web service or your game that you want to host. And the moment you pay for that, basically Influx takes care of all of the exchange piece. We go procure your Flux at the market price. We deploy it on Flux for you. We do all the signage, payments in Flux and all of that, and you just get to host it and play your game. And that's what is going to drive adoption, I think, for Web3 as well, is that we take away some of these hurdles. As much as we all love crypto and see the use of it, it is still hard to really get into if you're not into that space. So us bridging that, I think, will help folks with doing this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still not user friendly, and it needs to be as easy as using any app on your phone or website for any Web3 project. And otherwise, why would the customer do it? Except for in your case, I was just thinking right? if Flux is cheaper, it's more secure. It seems like the product itself is far superior. So I guess I feel like you kind of answered what the largest hurdle is with onboarding customers or getting people, because it seems like it'd be a no-brainer if your business to say, okay, well, this is.
And I've been at conferences, right? So I've been at the conference and they're like, oh, that's a great price. How do I get into it? Well, here's how it goes. You go to an exchange, you go buy your Flux. First, you have to deposit some fiat money. You procure your Flux. Then you're going to move it to a wallet. You have to download that wallet, and then so on and so on and so on. People are gone at that point. Yeah. So we want to make it now as easy as possible. We got that fixed. So that there's no more excuse not to use Flux in my book at that point. Because it's going to be as going on any type of other hosting platform out there. It's PayPal and just credit card payments. It's all going to be the look and feel the same way as any other Web 2, except it is running on the blockchain, and that's the big difference.
So then from what I learned about Flux, it seems like the way the tokenomics and the ecosystem is set up, that it does do a great job in creating demand for the native token of Flux. But then, like you're saying, if it forces the customer to have to go buy this token, so are you bridging a way that the customer feels like they're using fiat, or they are using fiat, but it's still using the native token of Flux?
Yeah, exactly that. So they're paying in dollar. So they get a dollar value in front of them or a euro value, depending where you are in the world. But basically, they get a dollar value in front of them. So they see, if I want to run a Pal World server, I have to play with 4 of my friends and I'm paying $5. Tomorrow, that's still $5. In a week, that's still $5. Today, it's 5 flux. Tomorrow, that's still 5 flux. But the value of that is today, that's $5. But tomorrow, that might be $6 or $4, depending on how the market operates. So we want to take that hurdle away as well. So you'll see $5 in front of you. You pay with your credit card. You pay $5. What happens in the back end? We go procure that $5 worth of flux. We go procure that on the market. So we'll buy that on Qcoin, on Binance, wherever. We pay that fee, and then we utilize the flux that we get from that. We deploy your application on the chain, because you have to pay the chain with flux. Can't pay the chain with any other coin or fiat money. So we have to settle for flux. So basically, we will be creating buy pressure, because everybody, even though they might not realize it, they'll be buying flux to host their applications. So there will be a lot more buy pressure from that end.
So that's incredible. I'm always looking at projects and trying to see where the actual intrinsic demand for the token comes from by growth on the ecosystem or growth of the product. The one thing though that I see with this and I'm thinking about is if the value, it's great for the holders, the value of flux goes up as demand increases and the ecosystem grows and your project grows. But then doesn't that also increase the price of the service? I mean, even if the customer is...
That's a good question. Yeah, no. So what happens is, so the service in Flux might actually start, the price in Flux will go down, but the price in dollars stays the same. So let's say, like I said, today, I think the Flux is about $1. But tomorrow, let's say Flux is 80 cents because something happens in the market. Today, you would be paying 5 flux, and tomorrow that would be still 5 flux. With today's thing, that would make it cheaper tomorrow if the price goes down in flux. We want to make it consistent. So if I'm a business, I don't want to calculate in that flux goes up or down. I just want to be able to calculate in, if I want to renew my WordPress, it's going to cost me $10. And next month, that's still $10. I don't want to go into having to buy flux that goes up and down in price to be able to compensate for that price movement. So we want to make it as easy as possible. And so the amount of flux that we procure will, of course, if price goes up, will go down. But also the cost on the network itself of that flux will slightly start going down as well. But everything, again, will be shown in fiat money value, just to make it easier for everybody out there to understand.
I mean, that makes total sense. Not to like try to poke any holes, but I'm always thinking about these in different ways. But so I'm thinking in terms of, say, I don't know what your bandwidth is or like how close you are to capacity of compute or storage or this kind of thing, but say, you know, the demand for the network just immensely explodes, where in a centralized business, they could just build more servers or build more. Because as say someone, I'm thinking like, oh, I kind of want to mine Flux, and I'm pretty deep into crypto, but I know looking at learning how to mine these things, buying the hardware, setting it up, or even running a node. I've done some research into running a Flux node. There's still quite a path of resistance, a barrier to entry, I feel like, for general people to be part of the network. And if it's like, oh, we need to massively grow our decentralized network, how are you guys thinking about that? What is that situation?
All the time. Yeah, no, all the time. So we have, it's a good question, actually. So there's multiple things that we offer and do at this point. Yes, it is not a one-click solution to get a node up and running. Some legwork and getting the right hardware, making sure it's set up correctly, set up the software, set up the staking. That is not an easy task. We have a solution for that as well. We have partners, and so I'll go the traditional route. So we have folks who created a managed service type of business on top of Flux. So these folks did that all on their own. That's not funded by us or anything like that. And they actually provide literally that. They set up the servers, they do the legwork. So that's all taken care of by them. Now, of course, that costs money because these folks are doing a service to you, so they charge you a little bit. So your earnings go down that way. So that's not ideal. The other piece that we have is what we call Titan. That is free of charge. Basically, you basically, I think you can go up to 40,000 Flux and the same as a Stratus server. And you basically just deposit it there and you basically, it's like a savings account almost. Oh, really? And you still participate in the network. But I do encourage taking time to look into creating a node. There's a lot of guides out there. There's a lot of folks, even on our Discord, who are helping out people with issues, things that they run into. There's a lot of guides. There's a lot of videos out there. But yes, in the end, it is still a big of a hurdle. And it's also a little bit intentional because it is a responsibility that you're carrying. You are what we call a decentralized system administrator. So you have to do a bit of your due diligence as well to get going. That all said, the scaling piece. We've done one halving, a soft halving as we call it, where we changed the staking amounts. So originally, the big server was like 100,000 Flux. Yes, 100,000 Flux for one node. I think the medium tier was 25,000 and the smallest was 10,000. So that was that was a lot more Flux you needed. Keep in mind, the price of Flux at that point was around a few cents. So so that goes hand in hand, right? So if the price of Flux goes way up, it gets harder for folks to stand up full-blown nodes. So we decided at that point, and also we had a need because we did see that the network was, or our offering was getting a little full. I think we were at 60 or 70% at that point. And we saw a need to have it halved. So by doing that, those who had already the Flux, they were able to stand up 2 or 3 nodes or 4 nodes. So we make it easier that way to scale. And then, but we don't do that easily. We really need to see like a 70% utilization at this very moment because of that big scaling that we did about 1.5 years ago. We see no need to do that just yet. I think we're at about 11% CPU consumption. About half our nodes are actually running at least one application, but that doesn't mean that we are getting close to that 75 mark again. What we're looking 75 at the 75% market is like the CPU usage, memory usage, storage usage. We see those really starting to skyrocket. That's the time where we bring out the run book and say, okay, let's start thinking of having and see that we can get more servers online.
So if miners who mine Bitcoin or mine Doge or mine can they easily switch over to mine Flux?
No. If you're mining Doge and Bitcoin at this point, and you're still doing it on a GPU, I applaud you, but you're not making much Bitcoin or Doge at that point. That's completely saturated with ASIC mining at this point, right? So what we do have at this point, and we do believe in proof of work in general, but I believe more in proof of work for GPUs. I think it's more even. It's a more even playing field than the ASIC route, simply because you can literally walk into a store, into your Best Buy, into your local IT store, you buy a recent GPU, you can be mining. You can be mining all sorts of coins, in the Oxa, Meowcoin, even Caspa still, although that's all getting saturated now with ASICs too. What was the other one? The Lithium was a big popular one, also now ASIC. But they had options, right? You can switch back and forth. I know NiceHash has that functionality already built in, that they basically switch from one profitable coin to another. We have what to mine, hash rate on NO if you're interested in mining to see what the most profitable coins is. I personally don't advise you to chase the most profitable coin in dollar value wise, because that also means you get the least of that coin when it's very profitable. I always recommend folks mining a couple steps below that. That's where you actually get the bigger yields. And if then the coin goes up, now you're in the profits. Otherwise, you're just chasing around. So that's just financial advice almost, but it's not. But I just want to make sure, like, I see a lot of, especially new folks in the space, right? They like, oh, if I mine this coin, I'm making $20 a day. I'm talking Ethereum days, I guess. But yeah, if you gain that coin right there, right then, and sell it straight away, yes, you're making $20. But you can be mining that right now because the price shot up way high in a parabolic move. But by the time you get your coin, we might be talking maybe $5 or $6 a day. Actually, this is what you made. So be careful with that. But it's a good topic, actually. What we're doing with Flux Core, and so the Flux Edge solution. The Flux Core is the software we install on people's machines that they can use to mine Flux and then be ready for useful work. You don't need to be mining Flux to participate in that. We literally have it built out that you can be mining any of your favorite coins. It's all nicely listed in there. And you can basically mine and be ready for useful work at any given time. I believe, and the team believes, that we have to be agnostic when it comes to mining. We appreciate all of our miners, and we love everybody to mine Flux, but we are also very realistic. People like to mine and support their projects that they really believe in, but they also believe in providing AI compute and just general GPU compute, and we want to give them the option to do that. So you can mine anything within Flux Core and yet still participate in AI. So that's, I think, is the right approach going forward. So we're not forcing you, and I'm not going to name the projects, but we're not forcing you to mine that type of coin to then participate in their AI offering. That is not something we do. We wanted to make it as open as possible for everybody to enjoy and join in. You don't even have to mine to participate with that, and you can be gaming all day and have a schedule set or a push of the button that says, I'm available right now to do AI or to do rendering or whatever. And at that point, you get jobs in, make some money as you sleep or if you're at school. And that's the intent, is we make it as easy as possible. Again, I think I've said that a few times now, but that's really been the motto. That's really how I've been pushing the guys within the team to really start thinking of usability, easy of use, all of those things that will drive adoption. And that literally bridges mining, crypto with everyday usage. That's been the goal.
Wow.
And we've achieved it now.
That's really cool. It's a really exciting project. So it seemed like during the last bull market, the proof of stake projects really exploded, and it seems like the kind of brand of proof of work is not what it used to be. But thinking about compute power, can a proof of stake blockchain like Solana or something just start offering tons of compute power? Or is this something that a proof of work that you kind of need to be proof of work to be able to offer?
Proof of stake and proof of work. So proof of stake projects, the chains themselves that went to the proof of stake piece, in my book, and this is my own view on this, in my book, you went way more centralized. Basically, you take away the decentralized piece, which is your miners, right? Those are spread across the world. When you go to proof of stake, and we saw that with Ethereum, you went back to just, I think, if I say 100, I think I might be it's probably even less than that of providers providing then basically the power, the compute power for that network. And then it's extra scary if you think about that. A lot of these proof of stake projects then have a layer 2 that have other people utilize them for their tokens. There's a lot of tokenized projects out there that don't have their own chain, but they utilize the mother chain, and Ethereum, and Solana, and Binance. And as the moment that main chain stops, they all stop. And that's the scary part. So I do believe that Ethereum was doing the right thing with the gas fees were ludicrous. Don't get me started on that. But Ethereum was doing the right thing with proof of work and having a layer 2, it actually was way more decentralized, way more stable. And we've seen that with some of the proof of stake chains out there, that they can literally just halt the chain. That's not what what this is all about. The intent was to not have that single point of failure again. So that's my concern is that if you're a token on one of those proof of stake chains, you're literally putting your faith in that chain, and especially if it's a proof of stake chain and they halt it, you're dead in the water. So that's the single point of failure. So I always, because I work with a lot of projects out there, or startups and Flux Labs partners, as we call them, Inception folks, and they're like, "Oh, which chain should I use? I'm thinking of using Ethereum, or I'm thinking of using Solana." And I always recommend check out the ones that do proof of work first and see if you can work with them. Cadena, Lithium, Ergo. There's a lot of other chains out that are proof of work, so that the chain doesn't halt when you need it. And that's the scary part in with proof of stake. And then to answer your question, some of these then say, "Hey, we have compute power." Not really. Yeah, you can still provide compute power, but it's not part of the blockchain in that book. It's just an incentive almost to be paid with a token at that point. So that's my take on that. And that's fine. People are comfortable with that, then they should definitely go that route. But do know that if it's a pure tokenized payment system, they're relying on a proof of stake chain, that there is that single point of failure. And we've seen it, unfortunately, a few times now, even in the last few weeks, where chains literally just get halted for an amount of time. And it's really scary if you then know that some of these proof of stake chains are then built on some of these larger cloud solutions. So you can't even call them Web3 in my book at that point if they're literally using the old school hosting everywhere, and then that goes down, the chain goes down or halted, and then everybody else suffers. So stick to proper Web3, stick to proof of work, folks, and you won't go down that easily. There will always be one miner moving the chain.
Oh, wow. I didn't really think about that. The proof of stake chains are built on top of Web2 servers.
Yeah. Scary, isn't it?
That makes sense, I guess, because then where else would the power, I guess, be coming from, or where else?
Well, like an Ethereum node needs a lot of resources, right? So it makes sense. Don't get me wrong. It makes sense that you procure big, heavy servers for that type of stuff. But it also creates a bit of a conundrum that you might be susceptible for those folks. If there's an outage, then you go down, hard down. But we have to have contingency plans. And I feel like with proof of stake, that kind of goes away. Unless, and here's the kicker to it, you can still do proof of stake, but make the requirements to participate in that a lot less and a lot less harsh, because it is slashing and all that fun stuff. Make it a lot easier to get into it. Now you have my attention as a proof of stake project again, because now you're thinking decentralization again. And I know a couple of projects back in the day who were doing proof of work / proof of stake. Unfortunately, they failed, but they had a good intention and a good idea on how to do it, where you can literally have X amount of coins staked in a wallet on a server and still have miners as well, and they would switch between who was getting the reward. There was some really cool ideas there. Unfortunately, they didn't pan out, and that's normal in technology. But proof of stake, as it is for a lot of the bigger chains, scare me. Simple as that. It scares me. It scares me because it's a single point of failure almost.
The one last thing, I'm not sure how much you can speak to it, but because I'm based in the US, I'm in California, and it's gotten harder to get Flux. I know Binance US, that's where I got it last time. But like Coinbase, is there a reason why you're not on Coinbase? Is there any, like, I don't know if you can say if there's any.
Oh, I could talk about Coinbase. That's not an issue. I actually work with the folks from Coinbase. So we literally just stood up on Base itself. So you can actually procure Flux on Base at this very moment. So you can go, I think it's Uniswap version 4. You can go on there, see the contracts, and do a swap right there, right then with Base. And then the Coinbase discussion itself, because when Coinbase, that's a question I get like almost on a daily basis. If not just in the general chats, I get it in a DM, I get it in a tweet. Yeah, us, the Coinbase folks. I think we've done everything on our end at this point. We have our native Flux, we have our Flux on Ethereum, we have Flux on Binance, we have Flux on Base now. We have all of these parallel assets, so that's Flux living on other chains. And before anybody panics, that is a 1-for-1 with the native one. You can literally move it from one chain to the other. So we've created all that, because I know Coinbase, I don't think is really in the business anymore of setting up brand new spanking new wallets. Because you have to keep in mind, for an exchange to host a coin or a token, but if it's a coin, so a layer one, they have to set up a wallet. They have to maintain that wallet. They have to set up servers. So there's a lot of things that they have to do on their end before they can even launch it. With the parallel assets, and if you're a token, so like with the parallel assets that we have, which is a tokenized Flux, for instance, on Ethereum, it's easier for them to start up because they already have the Ethereum wallet running. They just need to add the contract of where we have that Flux to recognize it. And then they can start receiving it right there, right then. It's just a couple things in their databases almost that they have to do. That said, it sounds easy to get Flux then going on Coinbase. Why isn't it done yet? That's the $1 million question. I literally don't know. I talk with the folks from Coinbase on the daily. We have private groups with them because we're going to be integrating Coinbase Pay as well into our offerings so that you can use any of your favorite tokens that are on Coinbase. And yet Flux is not going to be on there. I don't know why. I've asked them to. Trust me, I've asked them to. But the guys that I'm working with, they're not even involved in that. And they said, yeah, we've pushed as well on our end. They're like, we don't know. We don't see any reason not to. So I guess stay tuned. Maybe we're not high enough on the coin market cap ladder, I guess. We did reach 100 at one point, and I know we came down a bit with the bear market, and others shot up. But I don't know. I hope it's soon. I know for folks in the US, it's hard, and even in Canada for us as well. All the scrutiny that they put on some of these exchanges, I guess rightfully so, and yet way too late for one of the big ones that caused a lot of issues for us last year. Binance, big one, no longer available to us. Qcoin, another one that I personally really like. Qcoin, it's been a really good exchange, and I can still use it because I'm European as well. But North America, not an option, and Binance US, not an option. So now you're forced to use crypto.com, which is still a really good exchange. I am talking to the Krakens and the Geminis and all that out there to see what we can do.
Yeah, Gate and KuCoin, which seem to have a lot of the alts and a lot of things that were not on Coinbase and such, and those aren't accessible to us anymore in the US. So it just
that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
Because KuCoin was really good. I really liked KuCoin as well. It was really easy to use. Traded quite a bit of different stuff on it, and then the doors got shut for whatever.
And serious too. Like these guys are actually pretty serious. Like I've sat with the CEO of KuCoin. Interesting conversation because he doesn't really speak English, so it's all via translator. But yeah, he was actually upset. He's like, it's upsetting. I have to do this. He's like, but there's no clear guidance on what we have to do and what we cannot do. He's like, if they would make it easier for us to do what we need to do, then yes, we'll be back. But at this point, he said, I just don't want to risk it. I have a responsibility to the rest of the world as well. He says, like, I can't have the US dictate what I can and cannot do. So he opted to just say, let's go elsewhere. And I think the US and Canada, basically, we're shooting ourselves in the foot here. I saw another article coming the other day regarding hosting and bare metal hosting even. and having to force your customer to KYC and all that. That's all the things that they're thinking of doing. It's actually kind of scary,
Mm.
Because they're gonna really they're gonna go big brother on us soon enough. They're already big brother, but they're gonna go even bigger, even more scrutinized than some of the countries we always point at that they're doing the bad things. I think we're starting to see things here in Canada and in the US as well, that are scary.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. It is just scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But
probably
yeah,
getting a little
I
into
hate
the
it. Yeah,
weeds, but I do
yeah.
think
I'm
that
not going to go into the laws and all that fun stuff, but yeah, the scrutiny on crypto really hurt a project like ours,
yeah.
because it's harder for folks to get into it, right? So yeah, you can use Trade Ogre, and there's a couple other exchanges, but the big boys, the ones that people put their more trust in, they're harder to get to now in the US. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, path of resistance is so big. It's even I'm
Yeah.
pretty savvy at doing all this stuff, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't just buy it right now. I want to buy it right this second, and then by the time I go,
Yeah.
okay, I gotta buy here, and then I gotta move it over here and bring it over to this exchange, connect this
That's
wallet,
that's the
swap it to
yeah.
USDT, swap it back into this, and like sometimes I do it, and sometimes like I was gonna buy more, I was gonna get more Arweave when it was like $7, and then I
Yeah.
was like, where do I get it now? It's like way harder, and I was like, oh, I'll just wait a little bit, and then it shot up. But that's
I hear
crypto, and
you.
like
I hear you.
for any, but there is some upside to it. I think that when it does become easier, I'm guessing. I mean, it's not financial advice, but it probably will help the price of Flux. So that's all. If you guys have done
Yeah.
this well without it, it's pretty impressive.
Well, and you have to keep in mind, we built all this with no VC investments. So we don't have VC tokenized investors propping up the price or pushing the price. And that's we've built this all from within the team, um, as a proof of work project. I think people forget that is still possible, because I think after the last bull run when everybody went layer two and took the shortcut again, I mentioned that a few times, they kind of shot themselves in the foot here and there, with their flexibility going forward, right? So they're depending on that layer one, and that's fine if you're comfortable that way. And standing up a proof of work chain is not easy. Let's call it what it is. You need some specialized folks to help you build it out properly, secure it properly, or you get things happening. What we saw with one of the the Caspa forks the other day, where they lose some of the ledger or things like that. So I get it. Standing up a layer one chain, not easy. Specialized folks required. The tokenized route was easy, but yeah, I think proof of work is still alive and kicking, and I still think it's actually the way forward. Point and case, Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, Davey, I've
Simple as that.
taken too much of your time. I really appreciate this
Anytime.
conversation. I learned a ton. I'm definitely even more excited about Flux, and yeah, I just appreciate you guys meeting with me about it and sharing more information about it. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen moving forward.